We are live. Welcome to the Dialogues About Death Show, episode 25. Today we're going to be talking about how to talk about the show, the HBO documentary, The Mortician. And I want to introduce our lovely guest, Kim Hunter, and of course, our wonderful host, Chris Miller. So say hi to everybody, guys.
Good morning.
Good
How's
morning.
everyone doing?
Thank you for having me on, Chris.
Hey, you're welcome, Kim. It's a pleasure having you north of the border. We're taking the show international today. I will love it.
We are. We love Canada.
We do too down here.
We
We won't get political, but we'd even love to even embrace and bringing you into the United States, Kim. That's how much we love you.
Thank you.
Don't you know? Awesome. Well, let's get into it because today's topic is really, really interesting. There's been a lot of buzz. In fact, this was Chris's idea or Kim's idea to talk about the Mortician. And so let's get right into it. I want to make sure that we have plenty of time to do that. And I think that if you haven't watched the show, Chris, why don't you introduce about the show? Because I'm actually a little fuzzy on screen. So I'm going to go off screen and let you kind of set up what the day is going to be like.
Sure. So, I want to have a special guest on. I wanted to have my friend Kim Hunter on. He's president of OGR this year, and we've had a great friendship over the last 7 to 10 years here. And we were talking about this show that's on HBO, The Mortician, and Kim brought it up. And I don't think Kim realized this funeral home is only about 40 miles away from my funeral home. So this was really big news back in the 80s and 90s when this was taking place. And I was in high school at the time and just getting into the funeral business. And so I heard about it, but I didn't really know the details of the horror stories that went on with this. And when I watched this documentary last week to prepare for the show, I was really shocked. I don't know. What was your reaction when you saw it, Kim?
Oh, I was absolutely, completely stunned and totally caught off guard. I was a funeral director. As Chris knows, I'm a little older than Chris, and I was a funeral director then. And I don't remember the story at all, whether it made it to Canada, whether it made it large enough on the news to be seen. But my first experience was seeing this documentary, and I was just absolutely blown away at how horrible the situation was.
Yeah. And unfortunately, there's always one bad apple. No matter what industry you're in, if you're a funeral director, a mortician, if you're a lawyer, if you're an accountant, there's always bad apples in every kind of company. But this guy went really above and beyond being terrible. It was, just going above and beyond cremating those multiple bodies. And I thought that's all it was multiple. But he did stuff that was just so gruesome and just over the top. What were your thoughts on all the other things that he was doing?
Well, I couldn't believe as you got into it, particularly the second episode, where I thought at the end of the first episode that it was just him, but it turns out his parents were involved. And the first episode didn't really come across anything more than they've got a rogue son. And it turns out the parents, although not to the extent that he was, but bad actors.
Yeah, they were. And here, that community trusted them. They had such a great reputation in that Pasadena area of Southern California. And they were very well known and prominent. And for them to do what they did, it's just a travesty. And I remember I was just getting into the business. I was attending mortuary school and getting into it. And I recall people coming into our funeral home asking a lot of questions about cremation. Even though, and back then cremation out here in California was only about 25-30%. So cremation wasn't very popular. But people were very inquisitive about wanting to know where we did our cremations, how we did our cremations, and maybe talk a little bit about how do you do your cremations and how do you prepare your families and letting them know how you do it? Because I know you do it a little differently with the company you use in Canada than we do in here. So we'll talk a little bit about the way you do it and a little bit about the way I do it. So then people kind of understand there's different ways that we have checks and balances for cremation.
Right. So the province of Ontario, where I'm from, has an excellent funeral body, a government a controlled body that protects the consumer. So there's regulations that we have to follow related to cremation, and so such things as offering the opportunity for a family to do an identification, an opportunity for the family to witness if they want to come to the crematorium. An opportunity to see what the retort looks like, so that they've got that sense of calm and peace that comes from seeing the environment and knowing that the casket that's going into that cremation retort only holds that one casket or that one container.
Yeah. And then that's kind of when I progressed into cremation into our family business, because we used to use third-party crematories. I don't think we ever went to Pasadena because it's a little too far for us to go, but we used our local crematories at the time. And I always felt like, once we drop it off, the person's loved one that we were attending to, I always felt like a little loss of control, knowing that it's like it's in the hands of someone else, not knowing how are they going to be respectful the way I would be respectful as a funeral director. And that family would entrust me on how to do it. So I definitely handpicked the people we were using throughout the years for our personal cremations. And that's why when I had the opportunity to open and put in my own crematory, I knew that was going to relieve a lot of liability and a lot of heartache and headache, and really give an additional service to the families that we serve.
Years ago, when we started with a third party, it was owned by the Anglican Church of Canada. So it was on cemetery property and controlled by the St. James Anglican Church here in Toronto. So there was a real sense of confidence, and it was very professional, and certainly pleased all those years. And then in the last number of years, I partnered up with some other funeral directors where we have our own crematorium that is owned by funeral directors. So there's that whole trust environment. We're all family owned. We're all independent funeral homes, and we own the crematorium together. So there's that sense of ethics, moral responsibility, ethical responsibilities, and it gives a real comfort to me too, including as a funeral home owner. Because the last thing I want is any of my consumer clients to think that there's something nefarious going on.
Sure. Do you take what type of things do you put in place at your crematories up there to give your families like the peace of mind or assurance that things are being done properly?
Well, one of the things that we do is that there's when the cremated remains come out and the process is finished, we have a metal coin with a number on it that we put with those cremated remains. Okay. And then on the cremation certificate that they get with the cremated remains, that coin number is identical. And do you do the same thing in California?
We do. We have a coin, and what we do is if we do a witness cremation with a family present or not, but we have a little coin with that number that's unique to that individual, and we put the coin in the machine with the body. And so at my crematory, I'm one of the few crematories that actually has everything on 24-hour camera surveillance. So I'm videotaping the process so I can keep an eye on my employees. Also, I can also show the families that their loved one is going in. And so what we do is we actually take the coin, the number on that coin, and we write it on the end of the box. So when the box is being pushed into the retort, the people can see the number on the box is the same on the coin, and then the coin goes in the oven. So when then the ashes are being drawn out, the coin is being drawn out with the ashes and the remains. And then what we do is we'll pull that out while we process it. Then we put the coin back in with those ashes so that it always stays. But through the process, that coin is always attached to those ashes and those remains through the whole process. And we videotape it all. So it really gives us that peace of mind.
Well, I have a wonderful story of cremated remains in a family's home that were stolen. The thieves just thought it was some kind of urn that had some expense attached to it. Once they took it, they realized that it had cremated remains.
Oh my!
And what they did north of Toronto is they literally dumped it in a lake by a marina to get rid of it. And what happened is a boat came in, and the owner of the boat was underneath with scuba equipment, and he was cleaning the bottom of his boat, and he saw this urn at the bottom of the lake.
Uh-huh.
He retrieved it, brought it up, realized what it was, took it to the Ontario Provincial Police. The police opened it, saw the coin, and were able to discover through the crematorium,
Uh-huh.
once they did their homework, and were able to get the cremated remains back to the individual, to the family members, which was just
that's wonderful.
yeah,
That's wonderful.
all because of that coin.
Sure. That's great. Let's see. Let's go back into asking some questions about the show. That show, how damaging do you think it is to our reputation when something comes up like that? So right now, this show, this HBO documentary is out there in television around the country, and people are going, "Oh my gosh." Have you had anybody come up to you? Like, I've had people at my Rotary Club and people in the community say, "Hey, have you seen that show yet?"
Right.
And for weeks I've said no. And so I said, "Gee, I've got to watch this because I got to educate myself on what's going on."
I've had a lot of people that have reached out to me, same situation as you, had seen it before I had, and were blown away with it. But they also realize that, knowing me, that there's no way that our operation or anybody that would be associated with me would even begin to, have that kind of conduct. But they were encouraged me to see how the bad side is. If I hadn't seen it, you need to watch it, because you're not going to believe the depravity that has gone on here.
Yeah. My jaw dropped. I was totally shocked, and when I was shocked when he wanted to try to kill his competitors too.
Oh.
I'm like, what is going on here? It was like a spiraling rabbit hole. Like, he just kept going out of control, this guy.
There's no question he was a sociopath. I mean, he's just, I don't even think he sees any remorse today.
He doesn't. That's what when they interview him in this documentary, he's like, who cares? It's like, they're dead bodies. They have no feelings. It's like, you can put multiple bodies in there. It's not a big deal. And I'm like, where's the respect? Where's the dignity of giving that person their final wishes? And this guy could care less. He was just like, yeah, let's just throw as many in there because he wanted to make the biggest bottom line for his dollar type of thing.
Yeah, it was and in that second episode, when the crematorium burnt down and he moved to that new facility, that was a tile factory. I was speechless. I was speechless to see. Yeah.
Because I thought he was only doing, at the one place in Pasadena, he was only doing like 10 to 15 bodies. But then when he went up on Hesperia, which is about an hour from my funeral home, they were doing 150 to 200 bodies in the kiln. I'm like, there's no way possible. My head exploded. I couldn't imagine. I'm like, it was just mind-blowing. It was mind-blowing.
I mean, I wonder if people saw that part and said to themselves, I mean, it's just like something out of the Holocaust.
Exactly.
I mean, really, that's how overwhelming it was. Do you remember, did your dad, did he ever speak of it? Was he very much aware of it?
He was very much aware of it because, again, he was actively in the funeral business. And then, so families were coming in asking him all the time, do you know the Lamb family? And I mean, back then, everything was mom and pop. There weren't the big corporations back in the 80s, And so that's when SCI was just starting to buy a lot of funeral homes here in the United States. So a lot of the funeral homes were mom and pop, and my dad knew of them. But again, since they were in LA County, they were in a different county than us. We really didn't associate or do our cremations with them because it would have been crossing county lines and stuff. So we definitely heard about it. It was always headline news nightly, and when it went to trial and stuff. And here they got just a slap on the face, really. I mean, just a couple years in prison for literally affecting over 25,000 families over those years that he did those cremations. It was mind-blowing when I was taking my calculator trying to calculate how many cremations, if he was open 365 days, the number of cremations he was doing. It was just like the state, and I'm surprised our state didn't come in sooner, knowing this little mom and pop place was doing like 190 cremations a year, and then a year later they were doing 1,000 and 1,500. I'm like,
Well, and
how
he
does
was
that happen without additional equipment?
exactly, and he obviously was duping these other funeral homes that he was doing business with.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I wonder if a lot of it was the reputation of the mother and dad, that the son, the wayward son, was living out that. Everybody thought that the mother and father were good, solid, you know.
Absolutely. I'm sure that's what got him all his business. Like, hey, I'm part of the Lamb family. It's like I got such a great reputation, and people said, oh yeah, you guys do, yeah. And then he was doing it for really like lowballing the competitors, like really like hundreds of dollars less. Like a cremation was like $200 to $300 back then. He was doing them for $50 to $70.
Just
It was just crazy.
And I wanted to interject a little bit because, we want to talk about how this show, not the show, but just what happened in the 80s has changed the regulations. Because, obviously good actors like you, people who are doing business ethically, because you actually have a soul. But it did change the regulations to talk about. But something you guys were mentioning about how he was so greedy, he wasn't just burying multiple bodies. He was like foraging for body parts and selling those off to labs. He was taking out gold teeth. So I wanted you guys to talk about that and how those things are now, like, not only before just ethically only, but now with the regulations. How does someone in the community know that is not going on at your funeral homes? I wanted you to bring that up and how the regulations have affected the industry.
Sure.
Oh, and something also is, we didn't even say this, Chris. You were the past president of the Order of the Golden Rule.
Yeah.
And the current president of that. So make sure you work that in, because I want people to know how awesome that is.
Sure, you bet. So Kim, tell me a little bit about, if a family comes to you and says, "Oh, hey, we would like the precious metals out of Dad's mouth." How do you go? What is your policies, or what is your thing with the funeral homes in Canada? How do they approach that?
Well, yeah, we certainly don't we don't do any of that. And the first time I remember as a young funeral director that I got caught with a situation with a family asking for the gold teeth. I quickly had to figure out what I was going to say to them, because I definitely was not going to do it. So what I told the family, I said, look, in our operating room, we don't have the surgical equipment to remove gold teeth. So I said, that being said, if you would get in touch with your family dentist,
Yep.
we can arrange for them to come and do that if everybody's on board. Well, as soon as I mentioned the idea of bringing on the family dentist, that shut the whole subject down.
Yep.
It was fine to ask the funeral director to move the gold teeth, but if I couldn't and I had to involve the family dentist, they weren't going down that road. So
Yep.
it never happened.
Yeah, and we do the same thing. And to be honest with you, it has happened once at my funeral home. They brought their dentist in, and they had Dad's. I said, hey, that's fine. The dentist extracted them and handed it to them. There, they waited in the lobby while it happened, and they got their stuff, and they were all happy. But it only happened once. And I explained to people that the amalgams in the mouth and stuff, they all melt into the cremations when it's gold. It's such a fine material. It melts, and it's all part of the ash, so it's part of your loved one. And what we do with, like, when people have like hip replacements and pins from accidents and things like that, we work with reputable companies that are metal recyclers.
Yes.
And then the metal goes to those. And I have a company that I work with that they usually give you the option, and you get pennies on the dollars for the metal. It's worth literally nothing because it's all burned up, but they extract what they can out of it. And I have a company that I work with. They'll either give me back the check, and it's like $50, $100. It's minimal for the amount we create at our funeral home.
Right.
But I also have the company say, well, would you like to give that money to a charity of your choice? And so we can give it to a local charity. So I usually take it and give it to a local charity, all the monies that we receive. So that's how I kind of operate it.
This is the first time we've talked about that. That's interesting, because at the crematorium that I'm now a partner, that's what we do. We as partners, the total amount that's gathered at the end of the year is split amongst us, and we are notified of what the dollar amount is. And then the dollar doesn't come to us. We don't want it. We choose the charity that we want it to go to. And I just love that idea. I didn't know whether we were the only ones doing it, but I'm happy to hear you are too, because we don't profit from that whatsoever.
No, there's no need to it. I know that again, this gentleman, he was taking out the gold. He was cutting body parts and selling them to universities for research and stuff. And we don't do anything like that. And there's no reason to do anything like that. I mean, our staff, like you said, we don't have the equipment to do that. We're not in the business doing autopsies or we put people back together and we bring closure to families. We want people
Exactly.
to have the best experience under the worst circumstances for the loved ones that we work with every day. And so that's why doing and desecrating the body is just, you could say that's part of our OGR oath. We stand by the golden rule.
Yes.
We do unto others as we want done unto ourselves. And
Yes.
we have our list of things that we do, our ethics that we do through OGR. And so, I mean, that's why I really feel when we work with OGR firms too, we know that an OGR firm anywhere around the country in North America are reputable. So if I had lost somebody
Absolutely.
in the Toronto area, I would reach out to you or one of the firms that are with OGR, knowing that they have a reputation of making sure that I get my loved one back here to California, be it if it's being transferred in a casket to California, or if you're doing the cremation and shipping me the ashes to California. I know that I'm working with a reputable organization under the OGR brand.
And that's so important that we bring that to, with being members of OGR. I mean, that's such there's a comfort level for us as individual funeral directors across across the country that we've got peace of mind. That if you've got a family here in Toronto that needs our help, that they're being taken care of professionally and ethically, and everything's going above board as it should.
So let's see, how do we, I guess we've talked a little bit about this, of how do we make sure we restore the faith and keep the faith that funeral service is a dignified profession. And it's like 1% of those bad apples out there,
Right.
but they always ruin it for us. So what do you do maybe in your community, or how do you make sure that you keep your reputation as being an upstanding and outstanding? Because Humphreys has got an amazing reputation in the Toronto area of Canada. And how have you been able to maintain that, and how do you continue doing that?
Well, and I think one of the important things is just that continue to reach out to the community and being involved in the community. They get to put a face to the name of the business, which I think is so important that they can identify with someone, which gives them a level of comfort. Because as you and I both know, there's a mystery around what we do for many people. And so if you become a faceless entity, we just put more mystery around it. So I think that's so important that communication is the absolute key with the community.
I agree.
They need that and want that. So,
and is there, as I know we're going to be wrapping up here in the next couple of minutes, is there any like a message or something that you would give to a family out there that have seen this and are like, gee, should I still cremate? Or is there any reassurance or words of advice or things that you would give? Maybe, do you talk to other funeral homes in your area? Do you hear about word of mouth or reputation? What are a message or something you would tell a family, giving them some advice?
Well, I think if a family is nervous about cremation and that's where you've got to encourage them to do the identification. That's where you've got to encourage them to go to the crematorium and do a witnessing, so that so they leave at the end of everything that's happened, they've left with a comfort knowing. So I think that's a really strong, a strong statement that, look, if you have any doubt, then take me up on the opportunity for you to see your mom. Come to the crematorium and actually witness, the start of the process. And I think for those that have got any doubt, I mean, that speaks volumes that it's exactly the professional way they expect it to be done.
Yeah. I know that I'm always asking families to ask questions. It's like, what's your concern? Let us talk you through it. And so we have a little, it's kind of like it's a cremation bill of rights of this is what we do when we have your loved one in our care. And we kind of go through that with them to kind of reassure them that they're always under our care and supervision. We do the cremation ourselves at our facility. and we have the steps and procedures of identification and things for their peace of mind. And like you said, when families always question cremation, I'm like, well, why are you questioning cremation if you're such an advocate for it, but you're questioning it? You must have something going through your mind. And it's a show like this, like the Mortician, that makes people start questioning if they should or not. But again, opening your door, having an open door policy, letting them have closure, because that's all part of the grieving process, and giving them that opportunity to see their loved one and say goodbye, and also to see them being placed into the retort, the machine where we do the cremation. I think that puts their peace of mind. And then, by educating the consumer like that, they're going to go out and say, oh my gosh, I had a really pleasant experience.
Absolutely.
And that actually helps drive our sales when it comes to people that want cremation. If they want those additional services, we offer those. And not all funeral homes can offer them, because they don't own and operate their own crematory, or they may work with a company that is not as reputable. And then sometimes you go to some of these low-cost providers, some of these national companies that are doing cremations for just a couple $100. Those are the ones I would be concerned about, because
Absolutely.
those places are kind of being run and operated like David Sconce's operation. Not to say they're doing that,
No.
but they're doing not mass cremations. They're doing high volume. They're doing thousands and thousands of cremations a year under one firm, and they're taking them from all over the country. Like David Sconce was from San Diego to San Francisco, and he was picking up bodies all over, where most funeral homes would really just work in their basic area of the 15, 20, 30 miles radius. You might deal with a family that's 50 miles or 100 miles away on occasion, but you're not doing cremations 300 and 400 miles away to serve your funeral home, because we're mom and pop and we're local, and we keep it more like boutique.
Well, and Chris, as you know, I've been to your funeral home and your facilities, and the whole way, everything that you've got is just done so professional, and it's got to be a great comfort to your families that they can literally go across the parking lot from your funeral home, and there's your beautiful cremation facilities right there.
Yeah.
To see that it's right there on the premises, that it's your staff, it's your facilities, and it's just got to have such comfort for people.
It does, and I really think that's what's put us kind of on the map in our area here, the Inland Empire of Southern California. Is we're one of the few funeral homes that actually has an on-site crematory open to the public.
Yes.
Again, there's a lot of mom and pop funeral homes that may own crematories, but their crematories might be 4 or 5 miles away or 20 miles away, and it's not a convenience for their loved ones. Where we make it extremely convenient, because we're all in one location. Like you said, we're 200 feet away from each other between the funeral home and the crematory.
And I've seen you, I've witnessed you with your sense of pride of your crematorium facilities, and they're beautiful.
Yeah.
And it gives that whole sense of comfort.
Absolutely. And that's the experience I wanted to create, to debunk those myths of cremation, because sometimes some of these crematories are in warehouses. They're not as you not say luxurious, but they're not as detailed or refined. I try to keep my funeral home or in my crematory I treat it as if it was my chapel, or if it's a public area. So it's finished off and it's open to the public for the family members to see their loved one at any time that they want to do that.
Yeah.
So
I didn't want to interrupt you, gentlemen, but we had a question from the audience.
Oh, sure.
Came in, and as you can read it on the screen there, that Mary Pope Hatfield is asking that every industry has inspectors to provide oversight. Does your industry have visits from anyone to hold businesses accountable?
Yeah. Yes. Here in California, we have the Department of Consumer Affairs. It's the Cemetery and Funeral Bureau, and we are inspected at least once a year. So over a 12-month period, our funeral home and crematory are inspected, and they come through and they check our documentation, they check our records, they check for cleanliness, they check for identification, they making sure that our holding areas are at proper temperature, our machines are being calibrated properly. So we do have an inspection once a year, and I model myself when I see the inspector, I get excited, because I say, hey, I want to make sure I want to be your poster child of doing the best. So when you go out there to other funeral homes, like, boy, you should go take a look at Miller's. They're doing it right. And so I have always had 100% compliance, doing it right all the time. And when the inspectors come in, they're like, wow, this is a really nice place. And so it really debunks, because they go to a lot of places and they're like, and I don't want to hear about the other places because I don't want to hear about it. But our inspector always is like, wow, you've really done this right. And they always say, I wish other funeral homes would take your lead. And so that's where I knock on wood. I do it right because I've wanted to do it right, because I think our families and our community and our industry and our profession deserve to have it done right.
Absolutely. In Ontario, we have what we call the BAO, which stands for Bereavement Authority of Ontario, and it's the controlling government body that inspects funeral homes, cemeteries, crematoriums. And just like you, Chris, we have the same thing. Inspectors come and we greet them with open arms.
Yeah.
There's no hesitation on our part of having them come. We want them to check our facilities. We want them to look at our trust funds. We want them to look at our operating room and our facilities from top to bottom.
Yeah.
Because we're proud of them. We know we're doing things right. And if we happen to be doing something we should be doing differently, we want to know it, make sure that we correct it.
Absolutely.
So, yeah,
right.
I think if you're a good operator, there's no reason in any way, shape, or form that you should be concerned about an inspection being done.
That's correct.
And we, like you, welcome it completely.
Yep. Great question. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Mary, any other questions?
No, I think that wraps it up, and we are at the end of our time. So this was very interesting. I'm glad that you guys gave your take on David Sconce's sins of the and the fact that they were only slapped on the wrist is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But I think everything goes around, comes around. David started doing all kinds of other nefarious things, and he's back in jail. So just to give people peace of mind is that he is paying his due. And the families, even though they didn't get restitution for what happened to them specifically, he is now being, basically punished for all the other crimes that he's created. Well, and if you guys haven't watched it, it is a good show. And what's nice is you need to know there's people like Kim and Chris that are the exact opposite. They have such a moral code that it literally, when I've talked to them off screen about this show, they were both mortified that something like this even existed. Like, it's not even in your mind like that could even happen. So when the show, we're all like, oh my gosh, like, wow. Because that's just not how anyone, in fact, that's the beauty of the Order of the Golden Rule that you both have been presidents of. And Kim, again, congratulations that you're the current president. You're held at a higher ethical standard by the group. But I think everyone who's part of that group already is ethical. That's why they joined the group.
That's right.
Is there any little plug? I'll go off. We'll end with this, and I'll let you finish the show, Chris. Give a little plug about OGR and the members, and you too, Chris, because obviously you're passionate about this, and why someone, if they're listening, because this is going on podcasts across the world, why they need to look up a member if somebody in their family is passing away, why they should look up a member of OGR to take care of their family.
Sure. Kim, you want to say a few words first, then I'll close?
Yeah, I'm proud. We've been a member of OGR as a firm for over 40 years, and my fellow members like Chris and all the other members have the same high ethical standards that we have. That's what brings the pride in belonging to OGR. When I get together at conferences and meetings with these people, we're all like-minded. We're all concerned and compassionate and passionate about what we do, and want to do everything to the morally and ethically best of our ability to all our families.
Yeah, I agree, Kim. And our firm has been an OGR member for over 70 years, and it's been wonderful being more active over the last 10 to 15 years in OGR and getting to meet people like yourself, Kim, and even Paul and Jamie and Evan and goodness, Charles. There's so many names. George Dart. There's so many people out there that I've been able to talk to, which has helped me elevate my business too with little things. And I know with Jamie and Dan there in Wisconsin. They just put in their own crematory there in Wisconsin, and I know they talk to you and they talk to me of what should we do, how should we do things, and so they've implemented some things that they picked from other members of our
Yes.
organization. So
Yes.
if you're out there looking, if you're an independent funeral home and you're looking to get involved and get to know other like-minded ethical funeral directors across North America, look into OGR. It's a great time to get together, meet people on a one-on-one, and really develop friendships. And I think that's the biggest thing, is the friendships that we've developed over the years will last a lifetime. Even once we're retired out of this business, I can still see us being still connected.
I can see that bond going forever.
Yes. Well, Kim, I also want to thank you. I know it's a little bit of a time difference. This is the middle of the day in Toronto for you, but I want to thank you for taking the time today, being my guest, and talking about the show, The Mortician. It was good catching up with you and good getting your perspective, and it was good for my guests getting a little different perspective of what goes on up north of the border. We do love funeral service, and what we're here to do is to serve families. And we really do it the same way. There are maybe a few little tweaks of traditions and things, because even here in California, from Northern California to Southern California, there's different traditions. And when you go from the West Coast to the East Coast, there's different traditions.
Absolutely.
But we're still in it for the families, to giving families the peace of mind, especially when it comes to cremation. And hopefully this show today has given them a little enlightenment, knowing that there's 99% great funeral professionals out there doing burials and cremation the right way. So you don't have to worry, but it is important to research and talk and ask the questions when you're needing services in the funeral profession. Please ask your questions, and hopefully your funeral director will be upfront and honest with you in answering those questions in that time of need.
Chris, I can't thank you enough for having me on. It's been my honor and privilege to be here with you. You're such a great friend, and you mean so much to me, and it means so much that you allowed me to come on this broadcast with you. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. It's great seeing you, Kim, and great catching up.
Wonderful. Bye for now.
You bet. Take care.